Okay, let me start my presentation. So today my topic is harvesting forest for decarbonization. And before beginning my presentation, I would like to briefly introduce myself and what I'm doing. I would like to share my photo to introduce my work and what I am doing. I'm cutting from tree, harvesting tree to account how many carbons are stored in those trees. So to account the carbon storage of forest ecosystem, we analyzed down trees and then analyze the carbon storage in those trees. So based on this kind of activity field works, we published the how many the carbon storage of those urban trees in the last year. And sometimes I'm very interested in forest tourism and their experiences in forest tourism. So sometimes I was doing field survey using questionnaire and I analyze their satisfaction and or their their satisfaction and their crowding norms and others and management action, things like that. And 10 years ago, a decade ago, also I analyzed carbon flux on Han River. So to do that, I took a cruise boat and using some devices, I measured the carbon flux from river to atmosphere. And also this photo was taken at Cambodia. It was, you can see Mekong River. And at the time, the collaboration with Cambodian researchers, we visited Mekong River and also we measured the carbon flux from Mekong River to the atmosphere. So you can see some example of my publication a decade ago. So I analyzed the carbon flux from upriver to down Han River, incorporating with urbanized systems. And sometimes I visited the forested area or arid and desertification area in Mongolia of China. So to combat the desertification, we planted some trees and then we monitored the change of vegetation and soils after the plantation. And that kind of experience moved me how can I say, invite me to Ethiopia. So 5 years ago, I visited Ethiopia to evaluate the planting project, the feasibility of planting project with Professor Jung and the kind of activity and relationship have been, how can I say, sustained this year. So recently, I'm very interested in the seed because the seed can fly away using wind. And then I'm interested in the interaction between wind environment and forest ecological processes. And you are watching the flower blooming processes, so I'm very recently interested in those kind of flower blooming processes and using timeless photography. I'm making YouTube content, and I think it can be another way of specimen, plant herbarium specimen, because usually herbarium specimen is two-dimensional image, but this kind of video photography can be another alternative of traditional herbarium specimen. So this is my publication record. I have published more than 70 papers. 52 is international, and what else? So every year I'm publishing 3 or 4 international SCI papers recently. And if you are interested in my research, please visit my YouTube channel. And this is my QR code. I don't know, excuse me. this is my YouTube channel QR code. So if you are interested in my research, you can watch what I am doing on YouTube content. So sometime on my YouTube channel, I'm publishing my research activities in field and also this kind of seminar. And sometime I'm making this kind of plant flower blooming processes or things like that. So let me move to the main topic of today. So the background of this, first I would like to introduce the background of this topic. Once again, I'm very sorry about my presentation is not written in English and due to my busy schedule. So I wish you can use AI translator later. Recently, okay, this material will be better. So recently, the Korea Reforestation Archive is designated into the UNESCO Memory of the World inscriptions. So 50 years ago, this is the example of the first reforestation archive. So maybe 50 years ago or 70 years ago, Korea first looks like that. And then after the replanting and green reforestation activities, a lot of Korea forests restored. The kind of the archive is designated into the UNESCO Memory of the World inscription in this year. So let's move to let me briefly explain the history of reforestation in South Korea. So this is the data of the forest stock per hectare. So 1950, you can see the lowest level of forest stock in 1950. So at that time, Korea forest there was no forest in South Korea. So, excuse me. This map was made in 1910, and the green area is a forest area. So you can find that in South Korea area, there are few forests in South Korea. But after 1970, the Korea forest cover is recovered. And today now, so the forest cover and forest stock increased from 17 in 1910 to 150 to 2020. So now today you can see lots of forest land cover is occupied by forests. So you can see those green area represent the forest area. So what happened in 1970s? In government, there are lots of efforts to recover forests. For example, excuse me. This guy is the president of South Korea at the time, President Jung Il-pak, and he was very interested in reforestation activities. So he received at the time 1973. He is watching the reporting of the reforestation plan in 1970s. So that kind of huge interest and lots of efforts by government and citizens and also militaries. First, lots of activities was done at the time. So you can see lots of people manually transport soil to mountain because at the time there was no forest soils, only rocks or deforested land was there. So to restore those lands, first people move soil to the mountains, and also harvesting was strictly restricted at the time. So, and today, lots of people analyzed why Korea forest successfully restored, and there are lots of reasons. And can I explain this kind of processes in English very well? I'm not sure I can explain this processes in English very well, but I should do my best to explain this figure in English. So, according to this research, the region and the mechanism of reforestation in South Korea is analyzed in two processes. So at the outer boundary, you can see the orange lines. That boundary represent the fundamental and mechanism and the kind of social and economical background at the time, context at the time, and the blue line indicate the how can I say, direct and forest related mechanisms. So why Korean forest reforestation successful? So we can focus on food and energy. So before 1970s, the Korean society relied on food and energy to forest. So lots of people, lots of energy sources were timber, trees, so harvesting trees, and they use those kind of trees to cooking and heating their room. But after 1970s, we use carbon energies, fossil fuels, so we could be independent from energy sources from forests. So we don't need to cut down harvest trees to get energy at the time. And another issue is food. Also, at the time, lots of farmers did burning of forests and remove trees. Then they use a mountain area for farming. But after 1970s, the agricultural production has been rapidly increased, so we don't need to use forests and mountain for agricultural purposes. So forest mountainous forest can be maintained forest instead of land use change or harvesting. So those mechanisms directly affect the reforestation in South Korea, and why we could be independent from forest to get energy and food resources, because we could at the time in South Korean society and economical situation has been rapidly developed. So we could get more money and we could get energy sources from Middle East Asia, fossil fuel energies. So the kind of economic development make us to be independent from forest to get lots of resources. And so as also during 30 or 50 years later, now we can see lots of forests in South Korea, and lots of people are now asking, so reforestation has been successfully done. So mission complete. And now what we should do in forest. For example, I'm a forest ecologist and forester, so did our mission completely done? I don't think so. So after reforestation, we are finding what should we do. So that's the main topic today. So now people are very interested in forest ecosystem services. So forest, excuse me, provide lots of services, not only natural resources like timber or food resources, but also forests provide lots of environmental values, carbon sequestration or uh, water resources or biodiversity and aesthetic values or tourism, things like that. So recently people are interested in the forest ecosystem services. So Korea Forest Services account the value of forest ecosystem services. And for example, this is the value of the forest ecosystem services. And I'm not good at, how can I say, express the economic value in English. So just to look at the 259 blah, blah, blah value. And this value is 13.3% of GDP in each year. Of course, this ecosystem value is, how can I say, hidden money. So we can physically get this kind of money, but we estimate forest provides luxury services, and that kind of services can be estimated this kind of money. And today, we are facing lots of missions in forest sector. First one is climate smart forestry, and I will explain this climate smart forestry later. And another issue is forest well-being. Forest, so lots of people are interested in forest services, for example, tourism or healing. Um, and what else? Or urban forest or gardening, things like that. So we forest sectors should provide well-being services using forest resources. And another, the final one is forest disaster. So today in this year in South Korea experienced severe forest fires on March or April. And also landslides can be a serious issue because Korea forests have recently growing up, and it means that there are lots of burning materials in mountain areas. So we should manage the kind of forest-related disturbances. Let me move to the main topic of today's talk. So let's look at the climate smart forestry. That means that we manage forest to maximize the carbon sequestration to combat climate change. I'm so sorry about this material again written in English, but written in Korean. So the climate smart forestry interested not can I say we need to move our goal of forest management from conservation to active management. It means that sometimes we need to active harvesting. Active harvesting can be a solution to for climate smart forestry. So why I make this my presentation the title harvesting forest for decarbonization. So decarbonization indicates that carbon sequestration or carbon net zero 2050. So we our mission is moving to decarbonize the society. It means that here decarbonization means the society relying on fossil fuels, and by harvesting forest or by using forest resources, we can transfer to decarbonized society. That is the message of forest scientists. And maybe you can feel weird, emotional. How harvest forest can be the way for decarbonization, and I will explain the processes for this topic. Now you are very familiar with this kind of graph and human societies emit lots of greenhouse gases today, and every year, excuse me, okay, 10.9 petagram of carbon is released from land or ocean to the atmosphere. And this 10.9 petagram of carbon is returned to 3.4 to land and 2.5 to ocean. And the remained 5.1 petagram still remained in atmosphere. So every year 5.1 petagram carbon is increasing. So as a result, the carbon CO2 concentration is rapidly increasing during the last decade.
Can I ask a question? Can I ask a question? So if you go back to the previous slide, knowing that land use change represent a quite large portion of greenhouse gas emissions, right? However, considering that, I'm sure that you are aware of the current status of updating Korean NDC, right? And then there is some controversies regarding the land use and forest sector, right? Some group of even experts indicate that that the carbon sequestration portion needs to be largely reduced. Are you aware of it?
Yeah, of course.
So that has raised a serious concerns, of course, from the forest sector people. So how would you be able to comment on the current state of the discussions in Korea?
Thank you for how can I say, that's my main topic today.
I see.
Your excellent English helped me very helpful to briefly summarize the today's topic. And again, let's move to this slide. And this blue line indicate the greenhouse gases, carbon sequestration by forest. And until 2010, the rate was maximized, and after 2010, the every year carbon sequestration rate by forest is decreasing because in South Korea forests are, how can I say, already old enough, so they are not young generation,
growing fast,
right? So they're because like human also. Like forests also, when they are young age, their carbon sequestration is high. And after they growing up, they mature, their carbon sequestration and their growing rate could be reduced by their age. So now Korean forest is already matured. So they are not able to rapidly uptake carbon as they were young. That's the issue, the very serious issue. So we are, and excuse me, by several simulation, the carbon uptake rate or carbon sequestration rate by forest will be keep decreasing 2050 or 2100. So to do that, Korean Forest Services and forest scientists are actively saying we should harvest a portion of forest, to make some young generation of forest. That's the key message of forest scientists. Excuse me. Okay. So 2021, Korea Forest Services announced their plan for to support 2050 carbon net zero. And then at the time they announced many trees will be newly planted in South Korean forests. But environmentalists, how can I say, criticized the Korean Forest Services plan. And they thought, environmental thought that, how can I say, 영어 잘하시는 분 이것 좀 말씀해 주실래요? 이 메시지를.
탄소중립 공장 산림청의 벌목 조정. So they were arguing that the Korea Forest Service so policy promotes not to realize the carbon neutrality, but encouraging the people to cut the trees for the economic purposes.
Yes. So environmentalists were concerned Korea Forest Services will harvest more forests to plant new trees. And actually, in reality, excuse me, because Korea, the land cover is very small, land area is very small, limited area, and there's no new land to plant new trees. So to plant new trees, we need to harvest. So this graph indicates the every year the planting area and harvesting area statistics, and you can see the harvesting area and planting area is same, equilibrate. So to plant new trees, before we need to harvest trees. So during the last 5 years, in this field, in forest field, there are lots of debates or lots of showdown has been occurred between environmentalists and foresters. So foresters believe we need to harvest trees to plant new trees and to support young generation and another issue is and also to uptake more carbon. If we don't harvest carbon, if we don't harvest trees, you see, excuse me. Yes, again, the forest carbon uptake rate will be reduced. So to maintain carbon uptake rate, we need to harvest and we need to replant the trees. But environmentalists were very seriously aware of be concerned about harvesting. So during the last 5 years, lots of debates has been occurred, and still in this year, excuse me. I'd like to show this video shortly.
고민하신 분들이 많으셨죠?
화면공유 안 되고 있어서 화면공유
최근 공수위에서 이재명 대통령이 현행 산림 정책의 타당성에 의문을 제기하면서 산림 경영 방식을 둘러싼 논쟁이 다시 불붙고 있습니다. 특히 정부가 추진해온 숲 가꾸기와 인도 개설 사업이 오히려 산사태를 부추겼다는 지적이 지속적으로 제기되는데요. 최근 국회에서 열린 산림 경영 논쟁 토론회에서도 이 문제가 주요 쟁점으로 부각됐습니다. 토론회에서는 산림을 적극적으로 관리해야 한다는 주장과 지나친 개입이 오히려 자연재해를 키운다는 반론이 팽팽히 나옵니다. 백초희 기자가 전해드립니다.
영어로 하겠습니다.
최근 국무회의에서 이재명 대통령이 산사태 원인에 대한 과학적 검증을 주문하면서 현행 산림 정책을 둘러싼 논쟁이 다시 불거지고 있습니다.
인도를 내거나 아니면 벌목을 하고 새로 나무를 심는 이 사업을 계속 해야 되는 건지 전문가들끼리도 의견이 엇갈리니까 논쟁도 하고 필요한 과학적 검증도 좀 하고 하면.
최근 국회에서 열린 산림 경영 논쟁 관련 토론회에서도 이 문제를 두고 산림 전문가들이 모여 치열한 공방을 펼쳤습니다. 산림청의 숲가꾸기 사업과 임도 확장에 반대하는 측은 사업 실효성이 낮고 오히려 재해를 키운다.
대충.
있는 잠시.
아니요, 여기 오른쪽에. 박동준 박사님. 여기 계십니다. 네.
주장합니다. 숲가꾸기 사업은 인공 조립지의 생장을 돕기 위해 가지치기, 어린 나무 가꾸기, 톱가배기 등을 실시하는 사업입니다. 홍석환 부산대 교수는 숲가꾸기를 하지 않은 지역에선 산사태 발생이 거의 없었지만 벌목 직후부터 약 15년까지는 산사태가 급증한다는 연구 결과가 있다고 주장했습니다.
벌목한 숲은 초창기에도 산사태가 급증을 합니다. 그리고 나서 10에서 15년 사이에는 벌목하지 않은 숲에 약 100배 정도의 산사태를 일으킵니다.
최병성 기후재난 연구소장은 임도는 대형 산불 발생 시 접근이 어려워 진화에 도움이 되지 않고 바람길을 만들어 오히려 불길을 확산시킨다고 지적했습니다.
그러면 임도가 있는데 왜 불을 끄지 못할까요? 자, 이 속에 온도가 몇 도일까요? 800도에서 1000도입니다. 묘지에 다 비석까지 다 터질 만큼의 뜨거운 온도에 어떻게 산불 사차량이 들어가서 불을 끌 수 있느냐?
임도 확장과 숲가꾸기 사업에 찬성하는 측은 해당 사업이 재해 예방에 충분한 효과가 있다고 주장합니다. 엄태원 우탄 숲보건생태연구소장은 산불은 불이 나무 위쪽으로 번지기 전에 진화하는 것이 중요한데 임도는 이런 초기 대응을 빠르게 하는 데 도움이 된다고 말했습니다.
임도 산불 대응에 시적으로 효과가 있었는가 하는 부분인데요. 대응 시간은 빠릅니다. 하층에서 지표화가 일어났을 때 빨리 가서 불을 먼저 끄는 게 중요합니다.
좀
불
넘어가겠습니다.
없어요.
이런 식의 지금 토론이 그리고 사회적인 논란이 계속되고 있는 상황이고요.
Korean.
네.
Sorry.
그,
So this is one of the most serious concerns and debates ongoing in Korea right now. After the huge forest fire last year.
And I believe that 네, 알겠습니다. 감사합니다. And I believe that this debate is originated by the difference of worldview to the nature. So environmentalists, ecologists believe nature should be natural, how can I say, natural processes of nature should be maintained. That's the ecological way or environmental way. But forest scientists or forest ecologists believe that, well, okay, that's fine, but sometimes we could manage forest to maximize our purposes. The kind of purpose can be climate change mitigation, or how can I say, or natural disaster management. So this figure, for example, in the right side, you can see the rice field, and in autumn season we harvest rice field. That's the usual way. Like that, why we should be afraid of harvesting tree and harvesting forest? That is nothing different to the rice field harvesting. That's the message of forest scientists. But environmentalists and ecologists don't agree with the perspective and worldview. And I would like to briefly summarize the worldview of forest scientists. And how can I say, in the view of smart forest, climate smart forestry, sometimes we harvest a tree, and the kind of timber resources can be efficiently used in society. If we don't use this kind of wood resources, we use more carbonized resources. So to minimize carbonized and unsustainable resources, we should use this kind of wood material, because wood material can be sustainable resources, and they can store carbon in society for a long time. So by harvesting trees, we can use this kind of sustainable resources, and then at the same time, in forest area, we can replant trees, and then those new trees can uptake more carbon than nature forests. Also, we believe that this kind of biomass and wood material, of course, they can emit carbon dioxide to the atmosphere when they are burned, but at least they can be more sustainable against rather than fossil fuel resources. So we would like to making the kind of circular economy by using forest biomass. And today, foresters say the kind of buildings by wood materials can be very sustainable way, and it is sustainable also, as well as safe. Mechanically, it can be safe against earthquake or fires, and also it can be economic. So we would like to build more buildings using wood materials. And excuse me, I have one more message. In the view of environmental justice, okay, this figure show the statistics of wood product or wood trade in South Korea. So in South Korea, lots of wood materials are from foreign countries. So this green circle indicate the imported timber materials, and then this orange represent the domestic wood production. So today, in South Korea, domestic wood production is 16%. It means that the other 84% of wood materials come from foreign countries. And so I have a question. So it means that it is kind of, how can I say, a trade-off. We could restore and conserve our forests by harvesting forests in foreign countries, by harvesting Indonesian forests or other countries. So I don't think it is the way of environmental justice. So in the perspective of environmental justice, also our land cover should support wood materials. I don't think we can 100% support wood materials from South Korea, but at least we should increase the domestic wood production from 16% to 50% or 60%. That is the environmentally justice way, I believe.
I have one comment on that. What you said, I fully understand, right? So we need to have a balanced management of the forest stocks, not only inside Korea, but also outside Korea.
Yes.
And then what you have been presenting on today focuses on ultimately how we can manage the carbon stocks through the forest sector, right? And then to do so, I'm thinking about all these plans, right? Needs to be aligned with the implementation of the Paris Agreement through the NDCs, right? So therefore, without considering the sort of article or legal ground of the Paris Agreement, which allow us to do so, from my point, there is only one or two that's in forest sector, that's Article 5 and 6, right? So that raised a lot of concerns on my side that without keeping that Article 6 portion on the national inventory, NDC, then I don't think there is a way for us to do so. Number two, looking at the current policy development and implementation by Korean government, especially Korea Forest Service, there is a big division between dealing with international cooperation, also domestic forest policy implementation. There is no internal policy coordinations on this issue at the KFS level, right? So that has also created some of the issues. When we talk about domestic forest stock, carbon stock management, then we also thinking about that this is the total amount that Korea as a whole needs to use.
Yes.
So automatically we need to at the same time how much we can deal with remaining amount outside Korea, but there is at least a very weak policy coordination on this matter inside the Korea Forest Service, and especially these days, I have raising concerns that it seems like a Korea Forest Service is losing its interest and possibly capability in keeping up with dealing with the international aspect of these important issues. So these are my comments and questions. How do you think about it?
Well,
And then you are looking at, you are showing us, yeah, right?
well, I'm not able to answer this question in English, but
Yeah, in Korean, yeah.
first of all, as always, Professor explained, to satisfy the 2030 NDC in South Korea, okay, we need to minimize the carbon and greenhouse gases emission from large industrial sectors, as well as also this highlighted value indicate the forest sector's carbon uptake in South Korea, and the below one indicate we would like to get the carbon credit from other countries. So that value indicate the lower one. So actually, today I have no idea what the kind of international.
Yeah, that's what especially my group has been working a lot on.
Yeah.
And I have not only talking about maybe there is a lack of good understanding on the role of the forest sector in terms of the keeping carbon stock, right? At the same time, a more serious problem from my point of view is that there is a seriously lack of understanding and interest in aligning domestic and international forestry carbon stock management policies under the general concept of the Paris Agreement through implementation of NDC, right? That has raised serious concerns. And then possible reason why, because is that those who do modeling work are usually domestic energy policy experts. So they naturally feel difficulties in taking the actually carbon sequestration as a part of their methodology. At the same time, data set that they have only tell them about the domestic situation, right? And then they are aware of these limitations that they have, but they don't want to, reflect, sort of the shoot things that the must thing through their work. So that has raised a lot of serious concerns on my side. And then even at this time, as I said, Korean government is taking public hearings on in order to finalize NDC target 2035, but that really raised me a lot of concerns.
Also, I don't think this today the Korea Forest Services policy for international carbon credit, the kind of or REDD issues isn't positive.
And from my point of view, it's a mess. Even we need to make sure that voluntary carbon market issues are different from NDC carbon credit. But I'm not sure whether or not there is that kind of an understanding existing inside the policy circle.
And actually, at the Bureau of Forest Scientists, I'm not good at that kind of international issues, and my understanding of my background, how can I say, it's quite feel difficult to follow the kind of international issues, and actually the underground mechanisms. So that makes me to, can I say, to feel difficulty to support the international issues in forest sector.
As you are part of CSDLAP group, I think CSDLAP has the strongest expertise secured actually in order to provide policy inputs to the Korean government and internationally as well. And then, so I think that's very important part. And then, especially current administration has a lot of interest in addressing the climate change crisis, which is good. However, weak point of current administration is that they seems not to have a strong policy response plans at the international level. That has raised me some of the concerns are possibly serious. And then there is a huge room to do so. Then you know, that's what the Republic of Korea in the end can contribute to implement the Paris Agreement goal, you know, 2.0 or 1.50 degree, whatever you think that's the, you know, objective. So I think that's very important part, and especially among the experts on the forest sector, and then tries to work together with other related experts or stakeholders together. Maybe we can invite Dr. Park Dong-Yoon on this matter. Dr. Sanim, do you have any quick comment on this?
Yeah, thank you. Dr. Yoon explained very well, and so there is a big problems. Those policy makers and the modelers, especially the environmental economists or natural resource economists, they don't understand the value of the forest and sequestration or uptaking the carbons from the sky. So if they don't understand it, then they will realize how the forest is very important. If I spend 1 minute, you see, the Dr. Yoon mentioned about the 50, 60 years ago, the forest was degraded, no trees on the forest area. And then during last 40 years, we planted artificially, man-made. And then remember one thing, when we plant trees, the 1 hectare means 100 meter, 100 meter. In Korean, 3,000 Kyung, and then we planted 3,000 young trees in 1 hectare. So when they grow means, you know, that from the sky they absorb the sea, and then water from the ground, and then sunlight, the photosynthesis, the 광합성, and then those seeds stay in the trees and accumulated. When the tree grows, seeds stay in the trees. So this is the best way to remove the CO2 from the sky, and then the cost is very cheap. One of the best way efficiently, economically reduce or absorb the sea. So if you understand those mechanisms, instead of abolishing or exclude those the importing the carbon credit from the abroad, that's the best way. If you go to Indonesia or Mongolia and other countries and then plant the trees, and then you can, those trees grow, or the mangrove grows, they absorb the carbon, and then carbon stay in the volume, and then you can claim later forest carbon credit. That's the best way. So without hurting our the economy, and then economic development, we can get the carbon credit from planting trees or using the forest management. So if they understand that one, they will, you know, accept this what Dr. Yoon mentioned here. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Maybe you have maybe 5 minutes to wrap up if you want.
Well, let me conclude my talk first, and then we can discuss the Q&A time. Also, again, I'm so sorry about this material, so written in Korean. I made it figure to compare how we maximize the ecosystem services by making different scenarios. So the left scenario indicate the deforestation, the land use change from forest to agriculture, things like that. And then at that time, we can maximize food production represented by the yellow boxes or wood production represented by the brown boxes. And another case, the right side, you are watching the conservation scenario. So we don't touch it, we can keep forest as itself. In this scenario, we can expect to maximize the ecosystem services by biodiversity in blue boxes or environmental conservation, soil, water, or atmosphere services represented by orange boxes or green boxes, indicating tourism and cultural values. So the kind of values can be maximized by environmental or ecological view. And in the center, you are watching climate smart forestry. And then according to the principle of climate smart forestry, it's the kind of midway between conservation and deforestation. So by the climate smart forestry, we can maintain carbon uptake sustainably, and as well as we can, how can I say, also the kind of tourism cultural values or environmental values or biodiversity values can be maintained. Even if it is not maximized, but a portion of the service can be maintained. Also, wood production or food production. It's smaller than the harvestation scenario, but a portion of service can be supported by climate smart forestry. So I believe the kind of midway can be maximize the full value of ecosystem services. So I would like to find the implementation approach and strategy for climate smart forestry in South Korea or in the world in future. Thank you very much. And I would like to give my detailed message in Q&A session. Thank you very much for your patience in my broken English. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Professor Yoon. In this seminar room, also online, there are a group of students having different backgrounds, especially for undergraduate studies. So this is a pretty interdisciplinary group. And then I think even if it was another good, sort of summary exercise of what I have known here and there through your presentation, I'm sure that especially this was a wonderful presentation for students who may be interested in the forest sector in general, or how to cope with climate change through forest sector. Maybe because there were a number of the students here, number one, I'd like to ask Professor Yoon to answer on is that how do you think about the issue of the greenwashing, right? Maybe even some students here may heard about greenwashing issues, and then considering the forest sector is important. However, they might still think that, well, I understand, but because of greenwashing, I cannot work on forestry. Then how would you be able to respond to those who may raise the issue of the greenwashing in forest sector?
Well, it's a very important question, and also again, this is not the question that I can answer in English, but greenwashing. Actually, greenwashing is the interest of industry, I believe the commercial sector, and the greenwashing is not the interest of the public and forestry sector because we don't act like we are green people, but in science-based scientifically, we believe forest harvesting and replanting is the best solution to maintain carbon storage and also maximize the climate mitigation. So I think the greenwashing is not in line with this issue, in my opinion.
All right.
Sorry about that.
Dr. 박동균, are you here? 박 박사님 어디 가셨나요?
아닙니다. 여기 있습니다.
Can you comment on the issue of the greenwashing?
Greenwashing is the issue of the voluntary market. Means especially those forest carbon credit is related with preservation or conservation of the forest. Means I don't cut forest and I keep the forest. So those forest carbon is stay there, and then they calculate the amount of forest carbon credit and sell in the voluntary market. So usually the buyers is Google, Apple, and those the big companies. So once I said I will protect this forest, but there is a risk. There is a risk. Forest fire, forest disease, and sometimes this forest will be disappeared. Or when I calculate the amount of the carbon credit in that forest, I the value. So the newspaper and some other environmentalists, they said, hey, you are doing the greenwashing. Means actually the amount of carbon credit is preserved is very small amount, but the exemplified and the overvalue and then sell in the market. So that's the big issue of the greenwashing, and especially in the voluntary market, not NDC market or regulated market.
I have one supporting comment. And personally, when I was a student, also I was interested in greenwashing issues, and at the time I was my side was more close to the environmental perspective. But now, after I studying forest science and ecological science, I believe that protecting forest is a very simple solution, and but sometimes I feel that can be a greenwashing because we can protect the forest relying on carbonized resources by consuming more fossil fuels and carbon resources. So to be decarbonized, sometimes we need to use forest natural resources in a smart way. So sometimes I feel the kind of environmental view can be greenwashing sometimes.
I think for students, if you hear about the greenwashing issues, as Dr. Park said, it centered on the issues of the voluntary carbon market. So for various technical and other political reasons. So for the sake, if we are interested in the forest sector to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by implementing the Paris Agreement, you'd better focus on compliance market, right? Compliance market in the forest sector may include the two issues. Number one, through the ETS, emission trading scheme, that's a compliance market. Another one is the NDC market that I teach you a lot on through Article 6 of the Paris Agreement. When you are interested in Article 6 of the Paris Agreement, not only in forest sector, but in energy and other sectors, it's always important to be safe, to focus on the compliance market aspect of the issues, right? Tries to avoid anything for now regarding the voluntary carbon market. And then it might lead to other situation where actually you somehow have to deal with greenwashing debates to a large extent, not only in the forest sector, also in other sectors as well. Now we have still some time, so I'd like to open the floor. If you have any questions or comments, raise your hands or whatever, give me a sign so that I can give you the floor. Hansen?
So I heard that one of the concerns with forestry is that after harvesting, when we are replanting trees, the main concern is that because we are replanting trees that have the most potential in terms of capturing carbon, it reduces biodiversity significantly in that area. Exactly. So how do we combat the different concerns between biodiversity and recapturing carbon? So I don't say we need to manage all forest in our land cover. So some forest can be a managed forest, and some forest can be maintained as a natural forest. So we need to divide the forest land cover by their own purposes. And in a managed forest, even the biodiversity is low, but the monoculture can be an efficient way to uptake carbon and also to produce wood material. In the case, we can maintain monoculture forest, but in other cases, for protecting nature and ecosystems, that kind of forest can be maintained natural and very diverse forest. So I don't think only one solution makes, how can I say, can be applied to all forests. So forest by forest, different solutions and different approach can be applied. Okay, thank you.
I have one additional comment regarding this issue. So as Hansen said, in order to meet the different objectives, right, in the forest sector, there require more coordinations or more efforts to be made. However, if you compare forest sector with other sectors, right, energy, they have no single component of biodiversity to consider even, right? Because this is what the foresters usually don't know, right? So in talking about the REDD+ mechanism, you have to consider safeguard issues, biodiversity, and others. This is, so from my point of view, this is a very wonderful mechanism because from the beginning, in order to deal with the mitigation issues in the forest sector, actually it involves already various related issue areas at the same time through one single mechanism. If we take a look at, say, CDM in energy sector, they only focus on emission reduction only, right? Not considering others, but because in climate area, there is increasing needs actually to consider other values and objectives into the system. In this sense, the forest sector can be one of the best examples to show how we can do it, right? So for foresters, I think you should know that this advantages of, say, REDD+ mechanisms. And for others, they should know so there are potential benefits they can get from knowing the forestry sector focused mechanisms, okay? So that's important. Also for the developing countries, many of the developing countries NDCs focus on forest and agriculture sector. So this is also immediately related to the issues of how to cope with, deal with climate change issues through developing countries as well. Once again, Korea forestry policy, unless it needs to become international, I don't think that the Korean forestry policy would capture inside the internal somehow non-useless but the time-consuming debates among themselves, only focus on domestic aspect of the issues. Okay, so that's my comment. Any other one more question or comment?
Yeah.
Okay, Anne?
Like we just explained that we proposed that to have the right usage of the forest, you would have like an area that's natural and an area that's more for the monoculture, the industry. But my question is, have you any idea how this can be like managed? Like who decides that? Who governs that and keeps the control over what is being done where? And especially if like a certain area is being given to a private company, how can we be sure that they use it only for those purposes, use the right trees, etc.?
Actually, in South Korea, the first forest usually occupied by government or other private sector, and usually first management is occurring on government sector. Means that the kind of government forests are usually and heavily harvested or replanted, or the kind of management action is going on, and other private sectors are usually not heavily managed, because what can I say? So what? I'm so sorry. My English can not deliver my key message, but usually it depends on the owner, the land ownership, and also the accessibility to local town or road, mountain road, the kind of physical environment, and yeah, that regulate the level, the degree of management in forest sector.
So related comment. Forest sector is a very interesting sector from my point of view, to see what kind of expertise are there. If you look at the forestry department in Korea, also outside, they have experts not only from the science field, but also economics and others inside. So that sounds to me very interesting, because other science departments, they only have a scientist,
Yes.
right? So that's good part. From the social science point of view, in the sense, especially like me, who do law, political science, and others to a large extent, and having understanding on the science aspect a little bit. Sometimes even today's Professor Yoon's presentation, many of them are about the governance and institutions, right? And sometimes the law, and that's what, for instance, the lawyers mainly do. And there is a lack of communication between two groups, right? Maybe I'm the one of the very few in Korea who may have a contact to both groups, right?
Okay.
So my recommendation to the foresters is that actually there is another big group which may have a very deep expertise on the governance,
Yes.
institution, and the legal and norms and others, right? So there should be more further efforts for the cooperation needs to be made. Otherwise, from the lawyer's point of view, I don't have that bias, but many of my friends who do legal practice, they might not recognize what you wonderfully have done, because some of them are not in line with some of the legal techniques that in order to institutionalize the issues. So there needs to be a little bit more coordination to be done. That will only help both groups to bring more influences and contributions to the society, I believe. Okay, so in that sense, as I already say, the interdisciplinary study and then the collaboration is very, very important. Considering that the forest sector is a very unique sector, by themselves secure pretty much every necessary expertise. But you also need to recognize, once again, there is a big other groups who focus on the specific aspect of the issues.
Yeah.
They might not know about the forestry at all, but they are those who can make a heavily influence over the legislation making process. Otherwise, that's one of the reasons why the always that even now, Korea Forest Service needs to be incorporated into Ministry of Environment, right? Because that argument can come from easily from their side, because they don't know the technical aspect of issues. Once it has been raised, and the foresters don't know what to do. because you have a very self-sustained expertise interdisciplinary way, but only within the group. You need to communicate with other groups so that other groups may record, oh, we still need to keep the forest sector as a unique sector, right? You understand? I think that's what is necessary, okay? The other similar group in Korea is a marine, ocean sector. If I go to Korea Forest Service, there are only foresters from Seoul National University, Korea University, and the Gangwon National University, and the Chungnam University, and pretty all of them, right? And the forestry department only, right? Yeah, I'm right. If I go to Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries, there is experts and the government officers from Seoul National University, and then there is one or two universities in Busan, and pretty much everything. So they cannot communicate to others. So they are very vulnerable, actually, in the end, to talk about the very large scale of the governance rebuilding or adjustment, right? So both groups have that issue, okay, in Korea. Very strange, right? Yeah.
Okay, thank you for your concluding remarks. And in regard to your message, I would like to add to my final messages. First one, this is my excuse me, this is my homepage, yoonecology.com, and you can see my publication list. And I'm interested in that kind of interdisciplinary research. So in that regard, I have several publications in science journals, for example, Journal of Environmental Psychology or Forest Policy and Economics, things like that. So I'm very interested in that kind of interdisciplinary studies, and I would like to keep collaborating with Professor Chung and you guys. And I have one more. And in that regard, excuse me. So if you are interested today, I'm writing these issues in a paper, but because of my limited plan and limited time, I haven't finalized this manuscript. So if you want to collaborate with, I'm looking for a new generation who is interested in this topic and who is able to finalize this manuscript. So if you want to collaborate with me, please contact me.
Well, for that, I can quickly review. I'm extremely busy, especially in this semester, but because this is an important topic, if you add me as one of the authors, I will quickly review and provide my comments.
Yes, yeah.
If necessary. So that's one of the ways through which we can collaborate together. So yeah, anyway, thank you very much.
Yeah,
right.
thank you.